All right, let's get started with today's deep dive. It's going to be about personalized medicine and cannabinoids. Sounds pretty complex, right?
It is, definitely, but also super fascinating.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
So the listener wants to know more about how our genes, specifically the ones related to the endocannabinoid system.
It's the ECS.
Yes, the ECS.
Yeah.
How those genes impact how we respond to cannabinoids, especially when it comes to developing personalized therapies. And we've got some heavy-duty research to dig into today, even some PhD-level stuff on cannabinoid signaling pathways.
Yeah, we're going deep today.
Okay.
But don't worry, we'll break it down so it makes sense.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. Just a quick recap of the ECS. What's the big picture here?
The ECS is all about balance, really. Maintaining that internal harmony,
Homeostasis.
Right, like the body's internal regulator, keeping everything in check. Mood, appetite, pain, inflammation.
Exactly. And cannabinoids play a key role in all of that, whether they're produced naturally in the body like anandamide and 2-AG.
Or it's just from outside.
Exactly. And speaking of those naturally produced cannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG, it was Dr. Machulam's lab that discovered them, right?
Yes, back in the 90s. It was a huge moment for the field. It really solidified the ECS as its own distinct physiological system.
I can imagine. So much research has stemmed from that.
Absolutely. And what's even more exciting is that researchers are still searching for more endocannabinoids.
Wow, so there might be even more out there that we haven't discovered yet.
Exactly. And they're also exploring the possibility of new cannabinoid receptors.
Beyond CB1 and CB2.
Yes. It's like opening up a whole new universe of therapeutic possibilities.
That's incredible. So let's talk about those familiar receptors, CB1 and CB2. How do they fit into this whole puzzle of personalized medicine?
They're at the heart of it, really. You see, CD1 is mostly found in the central nervous system.
So the brain and spinal cord.
Exactly. While CB2 is mainly concentrated in the immune system.
Okay, so they have distinct roles.
They do. And when they're activated, they set off a chain reaction at the cellular level, a cascade of events.
Okay, so let's dive into those cellular events. The research gets pretty detailed about G proteins, CMP, and all these other signaling molecules.
Yeah, it gets pretty complex.
So how do we connect those to the idea of personalized treatment?
Well, think of each of these molecules as a tiny cog in a complex machine.
Okay, I can visualize that.
The way those cogs interact determines the final outcome.
Or in this case, the physiological effects of cannabinoids.
Exactly. Now, imagine those cogs are slightly different shapes in different people because of genetic variations. That's where personalized medicine comes in.
Ah, I see. So it's not just about the cannabinoids themselves, but how our individual cells respond to them based on our genes.
Exactly. For example, variations in the genes that code for those receptors can change their shape or how well they bind to cannabinoids.
That makes sense. So some people might experience stronger or weaker effects from the same dose.
Exactly. Or even different side effects.
Right, because their cells are responding differently at that molecular level. So how do we actually identify these genetic variations that impact cannabinoid response?
Well, researchers are using amazing techniques like gene sequencing and molecular modeling.
What do those involve?
Gene sequencing allows us to read a person's DNA blueprint and spot those tiny variations. Molecular modeling helps us visualize how those variations might change the shape and function of cannabinoid receptors.
So it's like having a zoomed-in view of those cellular cogs we talked about.
Exactly, seeing how they might be slightly different in each person.
And by connecting those variations to how people respond to cannabinoids, we can start to personalize treatment plans.
Exactly.
Can you give us an example of how this might play out in a real-world scenario?
Okay, imagine a patient with chronic pain. Through genetic testing, we discover a variation in their CD1 receptor gene that makes them less sensitive to THC, the psychoactive component of cannabis.
Okay.
This information could guide their doctor to recommend a different cannabinoid or a different ratio of THC to CBD to manage their pain effectively without triggering those unwanted psychoactive effects.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, it's about tailoring the treatment to the individual's unique biology.
That's incredible. And it's not just about avoiding side effects, right? It's about maximizing the therapeutic benefits as well.
Absolutely. By understanding how someone's genes influence their ECS, we can potentially predict how they might respond to different cannabinoids and tailor the treatment to get the best possible outcome.
It's like having a personalized instruction manual for each person's body.
I like that analogy.
And the research goes even deeper, exploring how those genetic variations affect the cascade of signaling events within cells.
It does, and this knowledge could lead to even more targeted therapies that focus on specific pathways or molecules involved in those processes.
Wow, this is getting really complex.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting.
It is. Can you give us a glimpse into how those signaling pathways work and how they relate to personalized medicine?
Sure. So when a cannabinoid binds to a receptor like CB1, it triggers a chain reaction within the cell, like a domino effect. This involves a whole cast of characters, including G proteins, enzymes like adenine cyclase, and signaling molecules like CANMP.
And those signaling cascades ultimately lead to those specific physiological effects we were talking about.
Exactly. But those genetic variations we've been discussing can impact this whole process.
How so?
Imagine each step in that cascade as a delicate dance between molecules. Even a tiny variation in one of those molecules caused by a genetic difference can disrupt the flow, speed it up, or even change the direction of the dance.
So it's not just about whether the receptor binds the cannabinoid, but how that binding sets off a whole chain of events within the cell. And those events might be different in different people based on their genes.
Exactly.
This is fascinating. So by understanding those individual variations, we can start to develop therapies that target those specific signaling pathways.
With incredible precision.
That's amazing.
And the research delves even deeper into other signaling pathways, like MAPK pathways involving ERK, JNK, and P38, which play roles in cell growth, differentiation, and even programmed cell death.
So it's not just one linear pathway, but a whole network of interconnected cascades.
Right. And they're all influenced by cannabinoid receptor activation.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But unraveling these complexities is key to developing personalized cannabinoid therapies that are truly effective and safe.
This has been so insightful. But before we dive further into those other signaling pathways, let's just recap what we've learned so far about how genetic variations can impact those initial steps of cannabinoid signaling through CB1 and G proteins.
Okay, so we've learned that even small variations in the genes that code for CB1 receptors and those G proteins can affect how effectively they interact with each other and with cannabinoids.
And those variations can lead to differences in how people experience the effects of cannabinoids, both in terms of benefits and potential side effects.
Exactly. And this understanding is the foundation for developing personalized treatments tailored to each person's unique genetic makeup.
It's really powerful stuff. So knowing all this, how does it change the way we think about using cannabinoids for therapeutic purposes?
I think it means we need to move away from that one-size-fits-all approach and recognize that what works for one person might not work for another. It also highlights the importance of genetic testing.
As a tool to guide treatment decisions.
Absolutely.
It's about empowering people with knowledge about their own biology.
So they can make informed choices about their health.
I love that idea. And as we continue to learn more about the ECS and how it varies from person to person, we'll be able to develop even more precise and effective personalized therapies.
Exactly.
This is truly revolutionary stuff, and I'm eager to explore those other signaling pathways you mentioned.
Me too. They deserve their own dedicated exploration, so maybe we should save that for the next part of our deep dive.
I agree. Let's delve into those exciting details in our next session.
So, ready to dive into those other signaling pathways, those MAPK pathways I mentioned?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
You mentioned ERK, JNK, and P38. What makes them so important in this whole personalized cannabinoid medicine thing?
These pathways are like communication highways in our cells. They transmit signals that regulate really important processes: cell growth, differentiation, even cell death. It's a pretty intricate system.
And they're all intertwined with other signaling pathways, right, including those triggered by CB1.
Exactly.
So how do they fit into this whole idea of personalized responses to cannabinoids?
Well, think about it this way. Variations in genes related to those MAPK pathways can actually influence how sensitive those pathways are to signals from the CB1 receptor.
Okay, I'm following you.
So some people might experience stronger or weaker effects on things like cell growth or inflammation depending on their genetic makeup.
Ah, I see. So it's not just about the initial binding of the cannabinoid to the receptor. It's about those ripple effects that cascade through these different pathways, ultimately influencing all sorts of cellular processes.
Exactly. And the research actually highlights how variations in genes related to these pathways can have a big impact on how effective cannabinoid therapies are.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say there's a variation in a gene involved in the ERK pathway. That variation might make someone more responsive to the anti-inflammatory effects of CBD.
That's fascinating. So by understanding these genetic variations, we could potentially predict which patients might benefit most from specific cannabinoid therapies.
Exactly. Even therapies that target those downstream pathways.
It's like having a personalized roadmap, guiding us toward the most effective treatment strategy.
Precisely, based on an individual's unique genetic profile.
That roadmap could be especially valuable for conditions like cancer, right, where those MAPK pathways are often dysregulated.
Absolutely. And the research actually touches on how THC at certain concentrations can influence those pathways to potentially inhibit tumor growth.
Wow.
But the key is understanding how those effects might vary from person to person based on their genetics.
So instead of a blanket approach, we're talking about tailoring the type and dose of cannabinoids based on a person's genetic predisposition and the specific type of cancer they have.
That's the idea. It's about moving away from trial and error and towards a more targeted, precise approach.
That's incredible. But it also sounds incredibly complex.
Yeah.
How do researchers even begin to untangle this web of interactions between cannabinoids, receptors, and these various signaling pathways?
It's definitely a challenge, but it's a fascinating field. Researchers are using a combination of techniques, cell cultures, animal models, clinical trials, and they're also using computational biology.
To create those complex models that simulate the interactions.
Exactly. It allows them to test hypotheses and predict outcomes.
This is a multi-pronged approach, using both lab-based experiments and sophisticated computer models.
Precisely. And with each new discovery, we're getting a clearer picture of this intricate system and its potential for personalized therapies.
Speaking of discoveries, the research also mentioned the possibility of discovering new cannabinoid receptors beyond CB1 and CB2. What could that mean for personalized medicine?
That's one of the most exciting things about this field. The discovery of new receptors could open up entirely new avenues for targeted therapies. Imagine developing drugs that specifically activate or block those novel receptors, fine-tuning the ECS in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
It's like expanding the toolbox.
Exactly, giving us more options to tailor treatments to individual needs.
That's amazing.
Right.
And these new receptors might even be involved in processes we haven't linked to the ECS yet.
Exactly. Further expanding the potential therapeutic applications of cannabinoids.
This is all incredibly promising.
Yeah.
But we've also talked about some of the challenges. Where do you see the biggest hurdles in making personalized cannabinoid medicine a reality?
One of the biggest challenges is the complexity of the ECS itself. All those interconnected pathways, feedback loops, variations between individuals. It's like trying to map a vast and intricate forest.
So we're still just scratching the surface.
In a way, yes. We need more research, more data, more sophisticated tools to really understand the nuances of these interactions and what they mean for personalized therapies.
Another hurdle, I imagine, is access to genetic testing. It's not exactly routine for everyone yet.
You're right. For personalized cannabinoid medicine to truly reach its potential, we need to make genetic testing more accessible and affordable.
And it's not just about the cost. It's also about making sure people understand the value of this information and that they feel empowered to use it to make informed decisions about their health.
Absolutely. It's about changing the culture of healthcare, moving towards a model where patients are active participants in their own journey.
I love that vision. Empowering individuals to take ownership of their health and well-being.
And it's not just about genetics either. We need to think about lifestyle factors, environmental influences, other individual variations that can impact how someone responds to cannabinoids.
So it's a holistic approach, recognizing that personalized medicine is more than just analyzing genes. It's about understanding the whole person.
Exactly. Integrating all the pieces of the puzzle to create a comprehensive picture of an individual's health and tailoring treatments accordingly.
And with all that comes the ethical considerations surrounding genetic information. How do we ensure privacy and prevent discrimination based on someone's genetic predispositions?
That's a critical issue. It needs to be addressed alongside all the scientific advancements. We need strong regulations and ethical guidelines to protect individuals' genetic information and make sure it's used responsibly.
It's about finding that balance between the benefits of personalized medicine and the importance of protecting individual rights and privacy.
Exactly. And it requires an ongoing conversation between researchers, healthcare providers, policymakers, and the public.
We've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the intricate world of personalized cannabinoid medicine, from the cellular level to the broader societal implications. What's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will remember?
I think the most important takeaway is that we are all unique. Our genes, our lifestyles, our experiences, all of these factors contribute to our individual responses to cannabinoids.
So it's about embracing that individuality and recognizing that personalized medicine has the potential to revolutionize how we approach health and well-being.
Exactly. It's about moving away from those one-size-fits-all solutions and embracing the power of tailored therapies that are as unique as the individuals they're designed to help.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about, in this future where medicine is truly personalized, but like you said, there are challenges, ethical considerations that we need to be careful about.
For sure, personalized medicine, especially when we're talking about cannabinoids, brings up some important questions about privacy, access, making sure it's fair for everyone.
Right. We don't want it to become just another way that healthcare is unequal.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that everybody has access to these advancements, regardless of, their background, where they live, things like that?
It's a tough question. It's multifaceted. We need policies that make genetic testing affordable, support research into the different ways people respond to these cannabinoids, ensure equitable access to these personalized therapies.
So it goes beyond the science itself. It's about making sure everyone can benefit.
Exactly. And education is a big part of it, too, making sure healthcare providers and the public understand both the potential and the limitations of this kind of personalized medicine. We need people to be able to make informed decisions.
Right, to understand what their genetic information means.
Yeah.
And feel empowered to use it to guide their healthcare.
That's the key. It's about moving away from that, top-down model of healthcare and towards a system where patients are partners in their own care.
It's really about that individual empowerment, taking ownership of your own health and well-being.
And personalized medicine, it's not a quick fix, a magic bullet. It's a tool, a powerful one, but it has to be used responsibly and ethically.
You mentioned those ethical considerations. What are some of the main concerns when we talk about personalized medicine with cannabinoids?
One big concern is the potential for misuse of this genetic information. We have to make sure it's protected and used correctly for its intended purpose, improving health outcomes.
So protecting privacy, preventing discrimination based on someone's genes.
Exactly. Imagine insurance companies, or employers, using this information to deny coverage or job opportunities. That's a dangerous path we don't want to go down.
It's true. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
We need clear rules and regulations for this genetic information to make sure it's used the right way.
Absolutely. And we have to avoid over-relying on genetic testing, too. Genetics are important, but they're not the only factor. We can't forget about lifestyle, environment, those other individual variations.
Right. It's about the whole picture. Personalized medicine is one piece of the puzzle.
It is. We need to put it all together. Genetic information, clinical data, what the individual wants and needs to truly understand the person and tailor the treatment.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive. The complexity of the endocannabinoid system, the signaling pathways, the potential for these personalized therapies. Is there one message you want our listener to walk away with?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is this. You are unique. Your body is unique. Your endocannabinoid system is unique. So how you respond to cannabinoids is going to be unique too. Embrace that. Ask questions. Advocate for a future where healthcare is truly tailored to you.
That's a powerful message. And a reminder that we're all on this journey together towards a more personalized and empowering approach to health and well-being. Thanks for being here today, for sharing your expertise.
It's been great. I always say knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And the future of healthcare is in our hands.
Absolutely. And to our listener, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep advocating for a healthcare system that sees you, that celebrates your unique biology.